Hey, what's going on, my beautiful people? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a while. And because it has been a while, I want to address something about the fearful avoidant attachment style that I think needs to be addressed because I've seen this happen in people that I coach. But before I even get into that content, so the title of today's video is Why Do Fearful Avoidants Come Back After You've Left? If you guys can hear me, give me a thumbs up. But as far as housekeeping, I want to make sure that you guys are making the right decisions as far as the content that you want to consume. I have a different channel called Court Gatlin, the Rebound Journal, and I want you guys to check that channel out. If your ex is in a rebound relationship, you don't need this content. This is content for people who are actively in a relationship with someone or trying to recover a relationship with someone who has an insecure attachment style. But if you find out that they are in a rebound relationship, this breaks. Like none of this information is useful to you. All right. So I want you guys to go over to that channel and check out that content there because the way that you navigate getting them back, if you want to get them back, the way that you navigate that breakup or even heal from that is totally different than the content that you'll get here on Coach Court Attachments. Thank you guys. I hope that was helpful for you. I hope the content will be helpful for you. On to the main content. In today's video, we're going to talk about why fearful avoidance come back after you've already left. Right? I want you to let me know if you guys can hear me because sometimes it acts weird. So give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. All right. Got one person said, you can hear me? All right. So leading up, moving on to the actual meat and potatoes of today's content. Why do they come back? So fearful avoidants are often, I feel, one of the most difficult attachment styles, not only to kind of like profile, but also to navigate relationships with because they have there's this ambivalence that's always happening within them. It's a constant state of like, if you think of a seesaw, their fears and their emotions, I mean, their fears and their feelings, right? Their feelings or when their feelings get strong for you, they're with you. They're fighting for the relationship, but when their fears kick in, it seesaws the other way around, and that's when they need their time, their distance, their space, and that's when they act really weird. You know, how do I know this? I'm also a fearful avoidant in recovery, and it doesn't take a whole lot to trigger me. I mean, certain times of the year, certain traumas that I've experienced can bring some of these feelings to the forefront. And honestly, my ex-wife, my wife, she can pick up on some of these things when I'm feeling like I'm being triggered or if I'm feeling as if I'm just ruminating a little bit too much. And I've been able to help people navigate through those times that they experience that too. So I'm not just like preaching something that I've read in a book or a theory that I've come across. Like this is actually stuff that I use, that I apply to my own life, my own situation. Um, for a long time, I really thought I was just an anxious attacher, but I did have this part of me that can just like shut off. They're just, I call it like you're dead to me. Like I'll flip that switch, like you're dead to me. I don't want anything else to do with you. Moving on with life, and it's kind of not a healthy way to navigate relationships. So if you have someone that's a fearful avoidant and they reached out after that periods of silence, um, you have to understand that that was their way to reset what they're feeling inside, to really go through the process of feeling, understanding, processing their emotions. Usually when fearful of what is, have this type have a when someone has a fearful avoidant attachment style, it's usually because of this overactive nervous system, most likely trauma, most likely something that they've experienced in the past or within their childhood. I know I grew up in a neighborhood where I don't know if you guys are familiar with the 90s, how it was in the 90s, how communities were in St. Louis, Missouri in particular. Um, there was a lot of bullying going on. There was a lot of like gang violence going on. My mom was really terrified for me to like go to like the skating rink, for me to do anything outside. Really, I mean, that's kind of changed where, I had to be home when the street lights came on. That was like our rule with my mom. and I was just raised by my mom. But saying that to say that I had a healthy and safe home environment, but the community was something else, right? The community was wild. My middle school, we had to go through metal detectors. We had to either wear clear backpacks to school or we had metal detectors. And why does middle school need metal detectors? Because it was that dysregulating for people sometime going to school. Like they didn't know what would happen. Like if someone got upset, they get into a fight, whatever, XYZ. So that's part of the reason why I felt I ended up more on the fearful avoidance spectrum than the avoidance side because I crave connection. And my mom was really good about talking through things and having conversations. Um, so I think that's kind of weird. I mean, right, that's the fear to put the fear in fearful avoidant. In relationships, I never felt safe either. I don't tell people a lot about my early relationships, but I started dating really young. I was confused about what relationships were, what healthy relationships looked like. And a lot of those relationships, I ended up being the one that got broken up with, that got my heart broken. Because when I did get in those relationships, I committed hard. Like I leaned in heavily anxious. And I don't know if that's because I just didn't know any better. I was raised by mainly women, and I was also listening to a lot of boys to men and a lot of those R&B artists that made you think that going in heavy, going in anxious is the way to go about it. I'm way off script here. I had a script written up for you guys, but I'm way off of it. All right, so let's get back to um, the bullet points that I have for you. Fearful avoidance regulates closeness through distance. When they pull back, when you break up with them and say, "Hey, this isn't what I'm looking for," that's when they panic. But I've also seen a lot of my clients that I work with that they reach out to me after the fact, but when they're in the middle of it, they don't feel they need me. So it's kind of like counterproductive. And I would say, let's get proactive instead of reactive. If you're feeling a certain way and you know you're about to sabotage what's going on right here, I want you to reach out to me first because I'm actually not doing you any good with helping you repair things. I really would like to be in the midst of things when you're actually going through it and you're going through like, why am I feeling like I want to pull away from this person? It's usually because that safety feels weird. It feels uncomfortable. It feels like no man's land. And as I've heard over and over again, they feel fearful avoidance fear as if the other shoe's going to drop eventually. So they are proactive in breaking up with the other person first and leaving that relationship, but it's also reactive when they're trying to pull that person back in after they've already done their damage. Read book Timothy in the Bible. Hey guys, let me catch up with you. All right. So why do a fearful avoidant come back? I'm gonna tell you from my experience, it's because I was able to make that choice on my own. And I have a short that's like a really controversial short here on the channel that talks about, a person must feel comfortable to come and go as they please. Maybe I didn't communicate that properly, but what I meant was they have to be able to choose you every single day. They don't want to be pressured or feel as if they're obligated to be in that relationship or to pick you. That's what so I use a cat analogy a lot. If you had a cat that was, let's say, a rescue, like you went to the rescue center, the Humane Society, and got a cat that had been through a lot of turmoil, you need to realize that you can't feed that cat out of your hand anytime soon. The screen doors slamming, they're going to run out into the alley, they're going to run under the couch, run under the bed, whatever. It takes a while for their nervous system to regulate and to trust you. This is why people do have more success when they're in longer term relationships with fearful avoidance because they know that, all right, this person's going through this right now. I just need to just let them be. But if you try to grab a cat that's been traumatized, like they'll scratch you, they'll claw you. If you chase after it, they'll run away. So until you can get yourself to a good point of trust with the fearful avoidant, you can't be so aggressive about trying to get them back into homeostasis of the relationship, meaning that's saving that healthy position that you had, which means consistency. Um, what the honestly the way that they showed up in the beginning of the relationship, because usually fearful avoidance can come in pretty heavy and talk a lot about the spiritual connection and things until they get to the point where they're like, this feels smothering. This feels like something that I can't maintain, or they did something that gave me the ick, and I can't communicate about it, and I don't want to hurt them. You guys got any questions? Throw it in the chat. I only got about 30 minutes today because I got a 1 o'clock call. So I wanted to just really touch base with you guys. I know it's been a while since I've posted something on this channel. I've been going through this, uh, really building my other channel because I seen a lot of need for support after someone's been left for someone else. So the what actually triggers the comeback? It's not really missing you, right? It's the removal of expectations, just like I just said. The emotional demand, it disappears. They get to choose you, and based on my own personal experience, it wasn't until I actually pushed someone away that was healthy for me that I felt the remorse and regret. So I got a lot better over time with doing it. I got of being able to go through the emotional process and than I did before, where I can actually catch myself before I do something that's self-sabotaging. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. 43 years on this earth, trying to undo something, it's taken about a decade to get to this healthier state. Um, yeah, yeah, it's just a really interesting journey. Like life is so interesting because every time if you feel like every time you feel like you got something figured out, there's always a monkey wrench thrown in that program where like I'm learning Spanish now and my wife is fluent and I have her trying to teach me and I get frustrated every time that I feel like I have a certain saying down or I understand a certain tense in a word, and all of a sudden she's like, "Nope, that ain't it." And it's like, you life is truly, truly uh, one long class, I believe. Anyway, I digress. Let me know if you guys have any questions. If you're in this scenario, I can give you advice now, free advice. You don't have to book a call. You can just talk to me right here, right now. What else do I have for you guys as far as fearful avoidance? I hope I answered that question for you. Why do they come back? It's because they usually understand they made a mistake. They understand that it's so there's levels to this, right? Like this isn't just black and white. There's a level. The reason I'm probably at where I'm at is because I've done the work. Like I've got my emotional intelligence certification. I've got my relationship coaching certification. I listen to a bunch of different theologists, sociologists. Um, I would say that my emotional intelligence has increased over the years, but that's taken time. And it's taken time for me to realize that I don't have to be fearful of everything. Someone asked me, since I've been divorced and remarried, someone asked me, why did you make the decision to remarry? Because I realized that fear and faith can't coexist. Like if I'm constantly fearful about anything in life, like taking this gamble on YouTube, starting new careers, meeting new people, eating new foods, I can't. I'm going to be depriving myself of what could be like the potential. So when I see someone who has an insecure attachment that is a fearful avoidant, and I really try to beat that into them and say, what is the worst thing that can happen in this scenario? You break up, you get your heart broken. Okay, you lick your wounds for a little while, but not everything's promised, right? Like you're not really promised anything. You're not promised tomorrow, let alone we put these we have these high expectations and we have these high, yeah, well, I guess that's it, expectations on okay, so the part of in us that are more on that avoidance side is that perfectionist piece. We feel that we're looking for something absolutely fantastic or just a strong spiritual connection, and if we can't find if we see a flaw in that person that proves that, all right, this isn't the person, that's when we start really questioning things, and that's when that fearful side starts to come in of, well, what if this happens? Well, what if that happens? Like Tony Robbins say, don't shit all over you. Don't shit. Don't you two don't deem me. Don't shit all over yourself. He should be like this, or they should be like that, or I should be doing this. And I think part of that has to do with upbringing too. Romanticizing things that aren't really real. You know, I mean, I see all these movies. My wife loves rom-coms. I kinda do too, but I watch it for, like, the studying of the people, and I'm sure they have psychologists behind the script writing and everything, and there's certain things that work in real life and then certain things that don't. Certain things that are just purely theory that just should be sticking to theory and not realistic. Alright, so I'm getting to these questions here, sorry about that. Best let them pray. Do strong boundaries and going no contact help them to figure out the person's value? This has been heavily debated over the last month, and I've seen a couple videos being posted about this. Mainly, I think I might have done one too. Mainly saying that fearful avoidance actually wants you to challenge them. I say 70% yes. Yes. 70, 80% yes. They do want you to challenge them because they want to make sure that they can't just run all over you. Um, there's a bit of what testing that goes on with fearful avoidance. And I think this purely comes from the feeling of safety, being able to trust you because they can pick up on inauthentic behavior. Like I talk about self-abandonment all the time. If a fearful avoidant feels that you're like abandoning yourself to purely appease them, like if they say if they'll do things like change the time on a meeting or something just to kind of see how you lose more respect if they pick up on, all right, this person isn't being congruent on them with themselves, with what they want and how they, actually want to live life. So, and it's not something that they do intentional. It's really a subconscious thing. Strong boundaries, yes. Right out the gates, though, you have to set those out the gate. Like you have to say this. These are my standards for this relationship. There's a quote that I heard a therapist say once, which I think is a great quote. She said, "Boundaries are things that people put into place to help that person stay in your life." And how I interpreted that was when you don't set boundaries, it's just the sands of time is just running out for when you won't like them anymore. If you ever have a kid, let's say that one of your friends brings over their kid and the kid is just unruly, not really doing unruly. I'm just trying to be nice about it. Uh, not, I guess, lack discipline, and they're just not really pleasant to be around. If you don't set boundaries and say, hey, in this house, this isn't what we really do, after a while, you're not going to want that kid to come over anymore. And that's just a very small example, let alone your romantic life. If you're consistently self-abandoning and allowing this person to cross boundaries, it's not going to be pleasant anymore, right? Like if someone does something and you don't address it pretty quickly, um, you're either going to start showing up differently, you're going to start becoming more distant, or it's going to lead to a bigger issue. Like the quote I heard was, conflict avoided is conflict delayed and magnified. And I look at that, every time I hear quotes and stuff like that, I kind of run it through a strict filtration system. Like, has this ever happened to me? Have I ever seen this happen to other people? And it's absolutely true. So whether the attachment style, I think the boundaries are supposed to be set for you. Also, it's good. It's setting boundaries for them also sets boundaries for you. because now you're holding yourself to the same standard that you hold someone else to, you know? Do you think all the fault finding to make them break up will go away over time? And he reconsiders. I am in day 12 and no contact since he broke up with me. He said he has to detach from me. Um, I think for someone who's more severe dismissive, well, fearful, if someone's a fearful avoidant, because you have like, as a fearful avoidant, you're kind of like middle of the road. You can lean to the avoidant side, you can lean to the anxious side. I think for someone who's leaning more towards avoidance side, they have more of that flaw finding side in them. And for the person leaning more anxious, anxious people kind of really accept a lot of different things that comes from their partner. You know, because they tend to lean more towards that, I guess, for lack of a better word, codependent side of things. So for dismissive, if they're leaning severely dismissive, I mean, honestly, those are the ones that I see kind of ragging on people all the time and always have something to say about, what that person's doing. Um, they may not be even be over, some verbalizing it, but mentally they are taking notes. And that's when you hear at the end of that relationship, they come up with this whole laundry list of the things that you were doing wrong as a fearful avoid. If they're a fearful avoidant, laundry list of the things that they felt like you could have done better or they didn't like about the relationship. And you're like, I'm just hearing about this. I don't think that ever goes away if they're leaning heavily into that avoidance side, right? Because they're always looking for perfection. The fearful avoidant and I was in a long-term relationship with cheated, but then asked if they remove that person from their life, what would that mean for our relationship? Should I entertain this? I was just talking to a client about this. And I don't know if you guys saw my intro. I said, if whenever I'm gonna put this banner up real quick, whenever you look for content, you have to be careful about what you're looking for. Anytime you have someone that's in a rebound relationship, I have another channel called Court Gatlin, the Rebound Journal. I want you to disregard all of this information about attachment style theory because this channel is meant for you to navigate relationships with someone who it is just between you two, not a triangle. It's just between you two. Either they've pulled away, or you're navigating that relationship and trying to understand who they are, what you can do better, understanding yourself, how to make yourself less anxious, or to kind of heal some of that anxiousness that you guys have. But anytime that they're in this other relationship type dynamic, don't entertain it. I pull back, and what I would say is answering your question. If there is another person involved, I would say as soon as that when that person's done, first off, we need to get to the root of why you felt the need to like get involved with someone else. But I would say, hey, I'm not interested in talking. If you're with this other person, I need I need reassurance that this person is gone and no longer an issue. But also we need to like do a serious repair on how we can maintain a long-term healthy relationship and you don't feel the need to go off and find someone else. Hopefully that helped. Um Push-pull dynamic became too much. Absolutely. Not everyone can handle that. So here's the difference between the dismissive avoidant. Dismissive avoidance, they just kind of go numb. There's not really much hotness that happens from them. I don't know if you guys can still hear me. There's not a whole lot of hotness that come from there. They kind of just go numb. They numb out. And that kind of makes it easy because you're like, well, I think we're broken up. So I guess I need to just heal on my own. But for the fearful avoidant, they still have that like you can just sense the ambivalence with them. Like this little kid that's they're scared to get hurt again. Big key, what are your thoughts on getting just a heart reaction from their text? To give context, I let my ex know how she inspired me to take my grandpa to the opera. She mentioned I should while together. Um, I'm a s- so I need to know what happened in that relationship as far as like, did she try to recommend things to you? Like, Did she feel you could have been doing more in that relationship? Could have been doing more for yourself? Um, I've seen scenarios where, women, they say things, and I'm not saying this is you, like the men don't really take heed. Like if they make little comments about, yeah, you're getting a little belly there, and then secretly they're trying to tell you, hey, I want you to do better in this area because that's going to make me more attracted to you. And then after it's done, the men start doing all these different things, and I hear this from women all the time. Why couldn't he have done that sooner? Like I would have stayed with him if he didn't let me get to this point. Like now you want to do this, now you want to do that. I'm not trying to attack or anything like that. I'm just curious. Maybe she wanted to go to the opera more, or maybe yeah, I don't know. A heart. So there's like a psychology behind a whole simple heart, like the different emojis that people leave. Takes a little bit more effort to love a comment on Facebook because you got to slide your finger. Instagram, you just double tap. That's a heart. I mean, everyone views that differently. Like some people, for me, a heart is kind of like standard. It's just it is what it is. Okay, so he said I didn't respond, just sharing something positive to her. My grandpa's best friend, loves opera, plays. Okay, appreciate that. I hope that helped you, brother. Uh, I was doing a lot of stuff. It was more she knew how special she is. Okay, okay, yeah. Let her process what she's feeling. Like I say, stick with your no contact. Um, and I know I have older videos that says don't give up on fearful avoidance. The rule of thumb there is kind of reach out every 3 or 4 days or so, just to check in, just to purely check how they're doing, and just checking in on another human being with no hidden expectations, no hidden agendas. Just showing that, hey, even though we're not in contact, like I'm not angry with you for pulling back, needing your time, needing your space, needing to understand what you're feeling, especially for fearful avoidance. Of dismissive avoidance, they're just numb. But usually with the fearful avoidance is more stubbornness that they don't want to reach out and break no contact with you. And sometimes, like this person said, sometimes you just got to move on. All right, guys, I got to go to my call, but I appreciate you for being here. Thank you for liking the content. Hopefully, this was something that you took some information from. Hope or best case scenario, kind of gave you a little bit of soothing about where your ex is at and why they made the decisions that they made. If this is a rebound situation, once again, check out my rebound journal channel, Court Gallon, to kind of help you go to the next stage in your life, the healing stage in your life. And if it's salvageable, I've seen people come back from rebound relationships. Is it recommended? Not quite sure. All depends on your situation. You could have been someone that actually pushed them to that other person, and they wish they were really with you. Like they could be they could be someone that they're just kind of killing time with. All right. So thank you guys. Appreciate you. And always remember, when you go and be loved, you will never have to find it. God bless you.